Hi, my name's Sierra. I'm completing the Choose Your Own Adventure assignment. I have chosen to complete the ethical dilemma, and specifically, I am reviewing dilemma number 6. So, within this dilemma, I am a lobbyist for a community coalition that is currently fighting for additional funding for child abuse prevention programs. Within this legislative fight, the biggest opponent that we are lobbying against is the Speaker of the House within the state legislature. The state controls a lot of the budgets for this program, and the House has refused to allow the House to even consider bills that could increase spending for child abuse prevention programs. There's been a number of different avenues that I, as the lobbyist, have tried to kind of appeal and increase funding through the legislative process. This includes media pressure about child abuse prevention programs, appealing to donors within the speaker's realm, and then working with individual members of the House and trying interventions through the executive branch as well. The biggest barrier at this time is the Speaker of the House is not budging on any kind of movement for this legislation and funding. There, and a lot of the House members and individuals we've been working with do not feel that he is going to budge. While in a meeting with an influential senator, she confided that she has confidential information about the Speaker of the House, stating that he has been confirmed to have a child abuse allegation from several years ago, and that this is why he's so hostile towards this kind of legislation and programming. She has suggested that we go public with this information, which could force his hand or even force him to resign. There are members within the coalition who do have access to child welfare information that could make it easy to confirm if this allegation is true. And we're kind of not seeing any other avenues to move forward to get this funding. So the primary players involved are the community coalition, and that includes me as the lobbyist, child abuse prevention programs, the impact to population primarily for these child abuse prevention programs, which in this case is the northeast corner of the state and largely marginalized communities. Other key players are the Speaker of the House, stakeholders within the legislative process, members of the House, media, and as well as the state senator who did have that information. Kind of what is at stake within this dilemma. This scenario specifically, I think the biggest battle is trying to decide whether or not to kind of use the Speaker of the House's past against him to gain funding that could benefit thousands of children and families within the state. There are several, I think, Nassau values that do end up conflicting within this scenario. A few of them are social justice, dignity and worth of a person, importance of human relations, and integrity. Really, I think this dilemma focuses on pretty much every value that we as social workers kind of strive and do want to uphold. Specifically, two values that I think really kind of combat each other within this dilemma are the dignity and worth of a person as well as social justice. As the lobbyist in this scenario, we're really fighting to help the community gain funding for programs that are aimed to bridge gaps in services for families, hopefully prevent child welfare and CPS involvement, and a lot of these programs can help bridge those gaps for marginalized communities that are disproportionately affected by child welfare concerns. And I think this really encompasses the social justice portion of this dilemma. To accomplish this goal, however, as the lobbyist and coalition, we are considering using somebody's past against them which I think really inhibits the use of the dignity and worth of a person. We are not giving the Speaker of the House the benefit of the doubt. We are not looking to see if they have completed or done any change personally within themselves, like if this child welfare allegation is even true. And we're really looking to use this kind of dark, upsetting portion of their past against them to get what we want. And I think that kind of really goes against what we as social workers should be doing. This could have a number of effects on a number of people throughout this scenario. It could affect the Speaker of the House, the coalition itself, the coalition member who has access to this child welfare information, as well as constituents. Emotionally, I think that this could really harm the Speaker of the House. If the child abuse allegation is true, it could bring up previous trauma for him and his family. It doesn't give him the ability to defend himself or explain, what processes and steps he did to change. It could harm, his children and family as well, just to have to relive the trauma of that child abuse allegation if we do go public with this information. The other person I think this could really negatively affect is the coalition member who has access to the child welfare information. Child welfare information is confidential. Accessing that information could cause the coalition member to lose their job, their livelihood, be charged with a civil infraction, and cause a lot of other issues for not only them but their family. And it could affect the reputation of the coalition itself as well. The three biggest perspectives I think that are worth delving into within this dilemma are the Speaker of the House, the lobbyist, and the influential senator. I've kind of already spoken about the possible perspective of the Speaker of the House. If the child abuse allegation is true, he very much could not be wanting to kind of relive that or bring that back up, not wanting to traumatize his family any further. He could view child welfare programs and child abuse programs as what got him charged with that allegation in the first place. The lobbyist point of view, stuck between a rock and a hard place, really wanting to get this funding for families and making sure that, services are available to constituents that need it, the most marginalized and vulnerable within the community, to make sure that they do have accesses to resources, especially in this scenario, the northeast corner of the state, which has none of these resources at all. The other perspective is the senator. She's bringing this information up to us to bring public, not something that she's going to do herself. The way I look at it is she has something against the Speaker of the House, and this is an opportunity to get him out of the way. My own personal bias within this dilemma, it was not hard for me, I think, to kind of pick a side. Not that there really should be sides in this situation. I work in child welfare now, and this funding is something we need for the programs we have existing here in Colorado. There are areas in the state that do not have access to these kinds of programs, but I think going and potentially disclosing private and confidential information to get what we want is wrong. I think it does go against what we stand for as social workers, and there are other avenues I think that as the lobbyist in this scenario we can pursue, and we don't need to dig up and potentially harm someone and their family to get what we need. For this scenario specifically, I think I would want to speak with the Speaker of the House privately or, in a meeting and kind of try to better understand why he is so adamantly opposing increasing funding for these programs. This can, as a lobbyist, can strengthen our arguments for why these programs are beneficial. The Speaker of the House, if he was the alleged perpetrator of this abuse, he may be feeling targeted by the programs, explaining how these can prevent CPS involvement, how increasing resources for parents, can, help them better understand what's going on with them, their children, access these services and resources, and hopefully turn the tide in what's needed for this funding. I think the other piece is, legislation can be a years long battle, and families do need those resources pretty quickly. Trying to get that understanding from the Speaker of the House and using this as an opportunity to educate him about the needs of his community and constituents, and seeing if he really has an understanding of what they need, can also help. Even if it's not something that gets past this legislative session, it might be something the next year that does turn around and get passed and we get increased funding. So it's a continual fight, and want to make sure that, we are doing things ethically and professionally, and we're not harming people. We're trying to foster these relationships with our legislators and communities. These are my resources. Thank you.